Let's go over how you can create a custom home screen experience for your users in Adalo. I found this to be really helpful for apps that have multiple experiences that a user might switch between. This is mostly a user experience improvement. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. For this app example, I'm using different teams. So for example, we have table tennis, soccer, and pie eating. Let's say that I have a type of user who is a coach, and a coach is going to be involved with all three of these teams. But the teams are seasonal, so the coach only needs to be accessing the information for each team for a few months at a time, and then they're going to switch between those teams to another team. Let's look at what this experience feels like right now. If I open this up in preview mode, and I've already signed in with an account, you'll see that I'm taken to the default homepage, which is the one that I've set up for table tennis. Then I have a menu. I can open it up, switch between my different teams that I've set up, soccer, for example, and pie eating, for example. But let's consider that you're only going to be working with one of these teams at a time. So I don't really need to switch that often. And let's say for a few months, I'm fully focused on this pie eating team. Well, it would be really nice if every time I came into the app, by default, it just went to the pie eating screen, right? Well, right now, the way that the app's set up, if I close it and I reopen it, it's going to go back to my default home screen, which is table tennis. So in this tutorial, we're going to go over how you can actually set it up to remember what your last group was. And this can be applied in different ways than just teams, but it'll remember what your last group was and therefore set your default home screen. So let's get into doing that. First of all, what we need to do is we need a way to track what the default home screen should be for each user. So we'll open up the database, open up the users collection, and add a new property. Here I'm just going to add a text property, and I'm going to call this home screen, and click Save. Now we have somewhere that we can store the user's preference for their home screen. Next, what we need to do is set that home screen anytime the user switches between them. So for example, we want, for the first time that somebody opens up the table tennis screen, for their preference to be set as table tennis. And when they open up the soccer screen, we want it to be set as soccer instead. So this could be updated multiple times, however often the user is going in and switching between these, and we're going to set it up where it's automatically set. You could do this differently. You could set it up where maybe there are buttons in a menu and somebody could choose specifically which home screen they wanted and it didn't get overridden every time they switched. But we're going to just do this automatically. So we're going to set screen actions in order to accomplish this. For this home screen, the table tennis one, I'm going to add an action, and we're going to delete this that came with the app, actually. We're going to update the logged in user and change their home screen to table tennis, and click Done. Now I want to do the exact same thing for the other two screens, for both the soccer and pie eating screens. I now have my screen actions set up so that every time a user switches between screens, their preference, that field that we set, is going to be updated also. Let's see what that looks like. If I go into preview mode and open up my menu, and let's choose soccer, the app will now remember that I last visited this soccer screen as the home screen. So if I go back and look at the database and look at my user record, we can see soccer is the value in this home screen field. That's great. So that's going to update every time I switch between one of these customized home screens. Next, we need a way for the app to actually route the user that's logged in to the correct home screen when they first open up the app. To do that, I'm going to create what I like to call a routing screen. This is just going to be a blank screen that has conditional actions that will route a user depending on what that value in their database is set to. So we're going to go in and we're going to add a blank screen and just call this router. Now we also want to set the router as the home screen, because right now we just have this table tennis screen set as the home screen. So we'll choose the router options, click on the edit screen, and choose for screen navigation type the home screen, and click Done. Now we need to add some actions to this router screen so that it sends people who are logged in to the correct home screen. So we can open it up, go into Actions, add a new action, and link to one of our custom home screens. Right now I'll choose table tennis. We want to set this transition to none, Then we need to set this to only sometimes happen. And we want this action to happen when the logged in user's home screen field is equal to table tennis. And we're going to repeat this for the other two home screens that we have. Now all three of our routing actions are set up and ready to go. I'm going to also add one default action that links to the navigation screen just in case for any reason there isn't a match with one of these three. It's always a good idea to have like a fallback or a safe way for the user to still get around the app. So we're going to add one more action, and we're actually going to just link to navigation. And we can leave this to always happen because it'll go through this list. And if no matches are found, then this is the catch-all, and they'll just be linked to the navigation. So let's give this a test. Remember, we set my own account here as a soccer home screen. So when we open the app, it should take us directly to the soccer screen. And there we go. You see it flashed for just a second here on this router screen. So if you'd like, you could style this a bit. You could add a Lottie loading animation. You could add a logo, something like that, so it's not just a white screen that flashes. But that's totally up to you as far as styling your app. Now we have our app all set up, and it's routing users based on their last selected screen. This gives them a completely custom home screen experience based on what they've been browsing lately. As I mentioned, you could set this up differently. You could have it where they choose their preferences on some sort of a settings screen or something like that. But this is how you can set up custom routing and a custom home screen for your users in Adalo.